yourself. Tell us what you do.
Oh, we're like,
good to go.
Okay, I thought you were coaching me. I'm like, what? Thanks. Okay.
You hit the record button.
Yeah, we're good. No, we're good. Start off.
Wait, sorry. I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm Bryan Zmijewski. I'm the chief instigator of ZURB. I've been running for 17 years.
And at what point when you've been running businesses did it suddenly occur to you that you were actually leadership?
That I was actually in a leadership role. I would say yesterday. I think when you start getting into this, you kind of think you're leading the whole time, but you realize that you're not. So I would say it's been a kind of a continuous journey. Just when you think you understand how to manage, say, like 3 people,
Yeah.
you realize you haven't really set the agenda for 10 people, right? Once you know how to manage or lead 10 people, you realize that, oh my goodness, that's a disaster for 15. So I think I've been continuously learning the whole time, and I think I've been leading the whole time, but at the same time, knowing that I maybe don't know everything.
Okay. So leadership, by definition, changes.
Exactly. The whole time it's been a continuous journey of changing based on either the number of people that I'm leading, the products, the services, the circumstances. It's changed the whole time.
Cool. Now we heard you speaking today about some of the service stuff and the product stuff you're working on. How do you go about planning? Like as a leader, how do you take responsibility for planning for the future of the company?
When I'm a creator, I like to create things. I come from a background of wanting to make things. That doesn't necessarily put you in a better position to lead, but for me, it gives me an opportunity to understand a problem. And so what I typically do is I go hands-on in a small scale to try and understand what the problem is, and then I start peeling it back like an onion. It's like, okay, well, what else do we need to know about this? How is it going to affect larger groups of people? What types of process will we need? So I usually start by creating, and then I expand off of that and figure out who could potentially grow off this, who could lead this, who could take this vision and run with it.
So it starts with the thing you want to create, and then you figure out the team that needs to...
The result I'm looking for, and then I put my own creation skills, whether it's like trying to do a super duper PowerPoint, whether it's trying to figure out how to do a right questionnaire. It's just creating and then figuring out, okay, who do I need to work with that can own this, that can see the bigger vision or continue to work and expand it.
And in terms of those people that are going to be working on it, how do you find the right talent? How do you know that you've got the right people?
You don't always, because you want to continue to help people grow in their own leadership. What I look for are desires, passions, excitement around a concept and idea. I look for determination, follow through, things that are going to demonstrate that I can get through a problem, whether I like it or not. At least it's the first round. If it doesn't work, we can always adjust and figure out later, but if you can't get to a certain place, then you're going to have to reboot the whole exercise. So, in working with people and trying to grow their own leadership skills, you look for a capacity to get to an end point in something, right? Something that we're trying to do.
And there's leadership in projects or products or at the company level, but you also taken the responsibility of creating leadership in your community as well. As an industry leader, ZURB has said, look, we want to show the way. Tell us a little bit about that.
Same thing at scale. Let's do it first, and then maybe we'll share it with other people and see if it flies. And so I would say from a community-based perspective, we are projecting and presenting the things that we have worked on. It just so happens that other people tend to like those things, and we've been able to use that as a way to connect to people. So maybe that's my own leadership philosophy, is first do things and see if it works, and then decide if you want to share it before projecting it. So from thinking about leadership, it always starts from keeping problems smaller, working on something, and seeing if you want to expand those ideas, the vision, the materials, whatever it might be.
And when you share a lot of this stuff, every now and then you're going to have a misfire, right? You're going to make mistakes. Can you explain a little bit how you, maybe an anecdote or a story of how it hasn't worked out and what you learned from that?
Or you just talk about something else. You have another question?
Do not pass go.
Yeah, do not pass go. Another anecdote or a story that I can relate. So I look at, from a leadership perspective, I look at most of what I do is failure. I'm constantly failing. If you look at, say, I like to use Babe Ruth as an example. Babe Ruth was an exceptional baseball player. He hit tons of home runs. Well, he also struck out as much as he hit home runs, and he had a batting average of 300%, which means to be one of the best baseball players in the world hitting, he was missing most of the time. And I think from a leadership perspective, sometimes we have these expectations that you're supposed to get right answers all the time, that is leadership, is right answers. When really we're trying to guide people through the result, whether it's good or bad, to get to the next place. And so a lot of what I am doing on a daily basis is making adjustments and corrections based on the feedback and incorporating back into our work and seeing where we can go with it. So if I could pull out a specific example, it's happening every day, so it's not something that it's like it's unique, it's just part of how we think about problems. And it literally is everything we do.
Okay. So a lot of the community stuff that you do, the sharing that you do, also acts as marketing, right? It helps people get introduced to ZURB, introduced to what you do.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about business development in general. Like, how does that sharing ultimately result in something that's a work project or something you can collaborate with a client?
Well, think of it like friendships, right? When you tend to share something, that person opens themselves up, right? You make yourself more vulnerable. People like that. They want to see more of that. So when I look at what we do as a company, we are basically making yourself vulnerable and say, hey, this is our thinking on this. And most companies aren't willing to do that. In that case, I typically say everyone at ZURB is a marketer. You're marketing through your work. You're sharing your ideas. And when you do that, people come to you. They gravitate towards you because they want to be part of that. So I don't know if that's an agenda or if that's a marketing exercise. If you look at everything you do as marketing, you're not specifically addressing things through techniques or tactics. It's getting good at the work, opening yourself up, creating conversations, and then creating a cycle of feedback that informs the work in a better way and allows us to then go back out to people and say, hey, what do you think? And that cycle is what generates the marketing activity.
So instead of having a traditional marketing plan, you're just intentionally sharing all the time, building those friendships.
Yep. Looking at your work, I constantly go to people's desks and like, what are you doing? What are you working on? Do people need to know about that? Have you learned anything new? And you start to see that in there's patterns, and you can tap people on the shoulder and say, hey, you need to share that. That's important.
Yeah.
And when you build a culture around that, it becomes the expectation. It becomes what you're supposed to do, not someone saying you need to market that.
Yeah.
It's also a celebration of your success. It's a celebration that you went out and did something. And so it's not really sharing in that regards. If you don't really think of it as sharing, it's just you celebrating. People love to share celebrations, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a victory of your project. And if you don't know anything about sharing, it just kind of, people gravitate towards you.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good way of thinking about it. And for you, Bryan, what are you thinking about in order for you to grow every day? Are there things that you do deliberately, or is it somewhat accidental? Do you kind of discover through accident, or do you say these are the things I absolutely have to work on in order to be better?
I think it's a yin-yang type of thing. You're going to go through periods where you're going to get lots of inputs that you weren't expecting, and you have to deal with them. As leadership in a business, you can't dictate them all. Mm-hmm. There's other times where you see a vision and you want to set course and you're going to blaze to that place. And so I think being a great leader, you kind of have to sway back and forth of knowing when the tides are turbulent, you don't try fishing. When the waters are calm, you go fishing, right? And so that's a hard skill to learn, because oftentimes we become impatient of wanting to create things when there's really not circumstances or an environment for them to be successful, right? So I think that's the lesson I learned in the probably last few years, is that you have to be patient. You have to look for opportunities.
Yeah.
And when you get really good at this, I think, and this is my assumption, is that you set seeds for things to mature at a later time, and that's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years into the future.
So, in a sentence or maybe a couple of words, how would you describe your leadership style?
Depends on where you're looking from. If you're looking from it from an employee perspective, you're looking at it from a customer perspective, you're looking at it from a peer perspective, everyone's going to see it slightly different.
So subjectively first.
Subjectively, I would say I'm compassionate, intense, caring, exceptionally focused on a result, at the expense of sometimes empathy, sometimes understanding, sometimes diversions from community perspective, I think people can see continuity over time. When you directly relate to people, it's harder to see because you have relationships and they see your leadership from a different perspective.
So how do you think your employees would describe?
Intense, right? Intense. I would say it would probably have changed over the last 5 years or even 10 years, and so the way they describe me probably would change as well. You know, what they saw last year versus what they see this year, and I'm okay with that.
So we're in our particular industry, things are changing all the time. Technology changes, the devices that we're designing for changes. I mean, it's a sea of ambiguity. How do you plan for a future for a company where you're not even sure what the technology is going to be in 3, 4, 5 years time?
So maybe I'm a little different. I think as a leader in a high growth business, you have to stay in tune with what's happening on the ground floor. And so I actually participate in that. At some level, I share responsibilities and I spend some of my time doing implementation. I work at that capacity because I feel things change so fast. I want to know some of what the pulse is, and it's like research. It's like reading and understanding. I can read what other people are doing, or I can actually just do it. And I found that you can't be everything to everyone and do everything, and you will learn more by just doing some of it yourself and practicing it and understanding that that's your niche and that's what you know. So an example is we do iOS apps, and there are people on our team that do it. I'm not always focused on it. We're a responsive design company that focuses a lot on web applications. We're experts at that. That's what we're really good at. Not that we can't do iOS apps, but we're focusing in areas that we know we're going to be able to contribute at a top echelon.
Describe how your company's set up. Are you all in one location, or are you just?
Yep, we're all in one location.
And describe the physical space a little bit.
So I was fortunate to be able to purchase a building and create a space built around the business, which is extremely exciting, rare opportunity, and